In the first verse, Lord Krishna explains or tells that I am the one who gave the knowledge, imperishable knowledge. The knowledge he refers to is the knowledge of self. First, I gave it to Vivaswan. Vivaswan is the sun god. Then Vivaswan taught it to Manu. Manu is said to be the son of the sun god. And Manu taught it to Ikshvaku. So he tells the lineage from where this knowledge has come and claiming that he is the one who actually gave this knowledge to the sun god, the first who imparted. At this point, Arjuna is a bit perplexed as how Krishna, being a person in this age or being related to Arjuna, and he's seeing him like this, can say that we were the sun god being born or set to come into existence many centuries ago. How is it possible? He has a doubt in his mind when Krishna says these words. So we understood that when he says yoga, yoga again is union. It comes from the root word yuj, which means to unite. And ultimately, from all the three levels, there is a union that has to be done because we have been moved away from the normalcy. And in the final spiritual union, what we mean is the union of individual soul with the supreme soul, which is to manifest or to unleash the divinity that is within each one of us. We will go to the second verse. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakale neha mahata yogo nashtaf parantapa. So he is telling to Arjuna, the handed down in succession. So he said he has taught this to the sun god to Manu, Manu to Ikshvaku, that handing down of knowledge. The king sages who knew this, there was a lineage in which this science has been handed over by the Rajarshis. Raja is king and Rishis is sage. So the sagely person who were also the rulers, they were actually imparting the knowledge to their successors. And what happened in between is that this sharing of knowledge has been lost. That's why it is an implication that I am here to give you this kind of knowledge now, because there has been a gap in giving this knowledge through lineage. And that's why I'm here now to give you the knowledge. So when we see what are the different various kinds of knowledge that we get, or four sources of knowledge, we generally have pratyaksha. Pratyaksha is like direct perception. You see something and you get to know about it. That is the direct perception. It's very clear. You see with your eyes or hear with your ears. You have a direct sensory input and you have that knowledge. You see apple is red, then you have that knowledge that apples are red. So it's pratyaksha, seeing and trying to get the knowledge. Anumana is inference. When you see a smoke somewhere coming out, you can infer that there is a fire underlying with the smoke. How do you know? It's because of inference, because we know fire produces smoke. So whenever we see smoke, we can infer fire. That is a kind of knowledge where we tend to learn things through inference. And the next one is upamana or comparison, where we tend to compare not for the sake of similarity, but in qualities. When we compare, for example, Shivaji the Great was actually compared to a lion. It doesn't mean that he looks like a lion, but in the comparison, the qualities or the ferocious nature has been compared here. So some of the knowledge, when we say that Shivaji is like lion, we understand that here we are comparing not the physical appearance of lion to Shivaji, but it is the characteristic of the lion that we are imparting or imposing on him in terms of comparison. That is a kind of knowledge derivation, which is upamana or comparison. The fourth one is agama, which is the knowledge that is passed on by tradition. And here whatever Lord Krishna is saying, the Rajarshayo Viduhu, the Rajarshis transferring the knowledge to their successors, comes in this part of agama. And he says that this has been lost in the midway now. This has been coming from different or many centuries through the successors, there is a time in between where this knowledge of self has been lost. People have got deluded without having the right knowledge about the real and the unreal. That's why there is a lack or difference of understanding between the reality and the unreal. So Lord Krishna is falling back on the tradition laid down by generations of Rajarshis. So all the royal sages are considered as Rajarshis. They were kingly without, but sagely within. Meaning, for the outside world, they were in this materialistic world, but inside, when they reflect to themselves, they had all the sagely qualities or the self-realized person's qualities. They lived in utter luxury, yet had perfect control over their mind and senses. They had the knowledge of the self. So this is the second verse where he talks about that knowledge has been, the transfer of knowledge has been lost somewhere in the midway. We will see the third verse. Sayevayam maya tedya yogav proktaf puratanaha bhakto sime sakha cheti rahasyam hetaduttamam. He's telling that same ancient yoga has today been imparted to you by me, for you are my devotee and friend, and this is indeed supreme secret. After saying that this knowledge has been lost, he's saying, I am here now to impart this knowledge. What knowledge? The knowledge of the self, which has been lost from different ages in between, where people do not know what is real and what is unreal. Now I am going to tell to you. And why? What is the reason he is saying? Why I am telling to you? Because Bhaktosi me Sakha Cheti. You are my devotee. Bhakta is devotee. Sakha is friend. Because you are both my devotee as well as my friend. How did he say these two things, or how can we relate that whether Arjuna is a devotee or not? In the second chapter, when we see, he says, I have surrendered to you. You tell me what I have to do. That surrendering gives that he is a devotee of Krishna. And in many circumstances, we have seen in the story of Mahabharata that Arjuna and Krishna are good friends. With both these relationships, you being a devotee and also a friend, what he is trying to say, this is Rahasyam. He says that this knowledge, the knowledge of self, is the supreme secret. And I am going to impart you today that supreme secret, which has been lost to be passed on from your successors. So Bhakta, he had totally surrendered to Lord Krishna and asked for help in the second chapter. The teacher is then obliged to give the knowledge. And Sakha, Lord Krishna and Arjuna are close friends since childhood. As a friend, Arjuna has confidence in him and is open to new ideas and he is keen to learn. That's why these two qualities, because he has the two qualities of being a devotee with surrender and also being a friend who is open to learn, he says he is going to impart this knowledge. Again, why is this knowledge considered a supreme secret? Because when you know this, every problem, there is no problem at all when you really realize this. First know this and then realize this. Because this secret is beyond the scope of our body, mind and intellect. Now, till now, even in second chapter, we had been studying about Atman. There we understood that Atman is imperishable, it is ancient. We have seen all the qualities of Atman. Ajo nitya shashvatoyam puranaha nahanyate nahanyamane sharire. So it's very old, all these qualities, but we can think to a certain extent about what it is, but we have never realized it. And what we need to have Atma Bhalam, which is the power of Atman. Can we realize this supreme secret? Can we learn this supreme secret by having political authority or materialistic authority? No, we cannot have none of the external authorities that we have towards this materialistic world will help to have or get the knowledge of this supreme secret or realize this supreme secret. What is needed to realize this supreme secret is Atma Bhalam, which is the authority of Atman. You need to get a conviction in what this is. And how will you get Atma Balam? Through Buddhi Balam. And what is Buddhi? Your intellect. If you have a strong intellectual capability, if you are stabilized with your intellect, the Sthita Prajna stage, that is when you will be able to realize or get that Atma Balam. And what happens when you have a stabilized intellect? You get the physical strength, Bahubalam. When your intellect is strong, you are physically strong. So the whole purpose or the way we learn through Gita is one of the things is to get or strengthen your intellect. Know your mind. Mind cannot be changed, but what we learn is how to strengthen the intellect so that we can deal with the whims and fancies of our mind. So in the process of getting into the supreme secret, we need a strong intellect. Power can be tamed by external authority where law reigns in people positions of power. But again, as I said, here it is by Atma Bhalam, the authority of Atman. This is achieved again by Buddhi Balam, the strength of the intellect. And it results, if you have a strong intellect, it results in Bahu Balam, which is a healthy body. Now, our hero asks a question. Arjuna Uvacha Aparam Bhavato Janma Param Janma Vivasvatah Katame Tadvijaniyam Tvamadau Proktavaniti. He asked the same thing, the first verse when he said a kind of confusion or a question he had in his mind. He is asking now. Later was your birth, earlier the birth of Vivasvat. How then am I to understand that you thought this in the beginning? So he's asking, you are born now, which is your birth date is later than the birth of sun god. If that is the case, how am I going to understand that you only thought to the sun god? What is the proof or what is the logic behind you telling that it is me who has thought to sun god? That is a question which is a sensible question from the way Arjuna sees Krishna and the way Krishna sees himself when he says, I imparted the knowledge to Vivasvan, that I is the difference in the way Arjuna sees that I and Krishna sees that I. Arjuna being identified the I to the body, mind and intellect only sees Krishna as a limited embodiment, as a person who is in his age. When Krishna refers that I have thought, the I that Krishna is referring to is the Atman, which is eternal, which goes through various lives, various names, various forms. So this is just the question that Arjuna is asking. So Arjuna asks a question and addresses Krishna as here he says Bhavata and Tvam, like in the sloka we get this too. He says Aparam Bhavato Janma. Bhavata means like saying aap in Hindi or in a very polite way, addressing a person in a polite way. And Tvam is like you, not in a very polite way, but in the same kind of friendship or in a very colloquial way addressing. Here again, he refers Krishna as both, which corresponds or correlates to the previous verse where Krishna says, I am telling this to you because you are my devotee and friend. You can see that correlates because he addresses Krishna with two forms of addressing Bhavata and Tvam. One respectful, one is very friendly saying. Arjuna acknowledges that Krishna is his guru as well as his friend. As I said, the I, when Krishna says, I have thought, Arjuna views Krishna as a limited individual restricted to this body, mind and intellect. He is an avatar realized at birth. He has transcended the body, mind and intellect. As Krishna, we know Krishna is an avatar. He has transcended. He is a self-realized soul. And avatars, if you see the way they tell what an avatar is, avatar doesn't have births and rebirths. They are like the reflection of the moon in the water. So it will appear And when the water or the waves go away, when their work is done, it just disappears. So there is nothing like they'll have the continuity of birth and death, or they are into this cycle. They come here for a purpose. Once the purpose is solved or the purpose is realized, they just disappear. He being an avatar, we all know that Krishna is an avatar. He being an avatar, he has self knowledge, and the way he says I refers to his Atman and not this Krishna which is standing in front of Arjuna with this name of Krishna at this particular point of time. In fact, whenever there is any spiritual interaction, it is Atman that communicates. You can teach only to the extent you have unfolded Atman and lived the principles you are teaching. The rest for this is again a kind of deep, profound statement. Again, the understanding deepens and deepens depending upon our samskars, depending upon how attached we are to our body, mind, and intellect. If you see in Isha, I think they have a meditation, or I think the first thing when they breathe in and breathe out, the first thing they say is that I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, I'm not my body, I'm not my mind. So that clear discrimination of you not being the body, mind, or intellect has to be established first for you to alienate yourself and look at your body, mind, and intellect separately. As have gold and ornaments. We have seen many examples in the second chapter. Another example we can take is also a screen and movie. If you consider screen as Atman, and the movies that are playing are the characters, like the life, current life. So each time a movie cannot be played without the screen, and screen can exist without movie. The same way we have analyzed the petrol and the vehicle example. Petrol is needed for the vehicle's functioning, but petrol doesn't determine how the vehicle should go, how fast it should go, in which direction it should go. But without petrol, the vehicle will not function. The same analogy to the screen and the movie. If the screen, being ignorant, if the screen thinks that if a horror movie is playing, if the thinks that, okay, I am only this horror movie. When the horror movie goes away, it feels that I'm nothing. So it's the same kind of thing that we keep on our understanding about who am I. And again, each one of us have a different level of understanding of who we are. And when we deepen and deepen our understanding, the final reality, the truth, ultimate truth is that we are the divine spark. We are one with the universe, and this whole universe is one and the same. We are the we all have the divine quality, again with universal oneness. So the Swami Ramatirtha advises us to separate the teachings from the teacher. Follow the teachings, you can never go wrong. If the teacher is a realized soul, you cannot understand that state. So you will err in your judgment. If he is wrong, you will get misled. So this is a very deep concept. When we went through the example of Alexander the Great, where he was in search of a realized person, we see the way that person looks at his body, mind, and intellect. When Alexander wants to kill him, he says that you kill me, I will also see how you kill me. Where the self-realized soul, the I, the way he thinks I is different from the way Alexander the Great perceived I. That's why he gets confused as, how can you see when I kill you? Each self-realized person you cannot identify by seeing them, but the same way they look at people or they relate to themselves, it's totally different. Now, Lord Krishna replies, Shri Bhagavanuvacha Bahuni me vyatitani Janmani tava charjuna Tanyaham veda sarvani Natvam veta parantapa. He addresses Arjuna as Parantapa, and he tells that many births of mine and yours have passed by, O Arjuna. I know them all, while you do not know. What he is trying to say is that when he says I, he referred to the Atman, which is always present. The names and forms are changing. And the reflected consciousness, we saw also in the second chapter how we operate. It's like we have sunlight is everywhere, but when you bring a reflecting medium like mirror, you see that the sun rays falls on the mirror and reflects and gives a reflected rays. So we see the reflected rays and think that is the real sun rays. But when you take away the mirror, that reflected rays is gone, but still we have the sun rays which is pervading all over again. The same thing with our Atman as well. We need the body, mind, intellect, the subtle body, causal body, and the physical body to express with the Atman or the pure consciousness. If pure consciousness is there, we cannot express. So for each life, what happens? We just remember what is happening in this life. We do not have the idea of our past lives. You do not have. He says that you do not have. Many births of mine and yours have passed by. You and me have gone through many lives. I know them all while you do not know. I remember all of them, or I know all of them. But you do not know about your past births, past history, or past life. And again, this goes back to the reincarnation theory. And I had put some slides which are scientific based, where now people are also the science, or when I say science, the modern science have started talking about consciousness, something that is beyond your intellect, some kind of waves they are trying to identify. And they also accept or approve that there is something called as consciousness, which is available even after our death. So if you see, the Tucker's research has yielded interesting patterns within the cases of child claiming memories of the past life. They have done some research and they had found that 60% of the children who claim past life memories are made. Like, they have done a research and they have seen people claiming about their past life, telling the experiences of past life. So when these kind of things happen by real, it gives scientific a little bit of proof that there is something that has happened in the past or about the past lives. Again, these were some articles that I had taken. So they explain it in terms of quantum physics, and they feel that there is something as consciousness, that energy transfer. When we say consciousness, again, that waves or things transfer without a physical body, that can go and pervade any part of this universe without our physical body. And this is one of the book I read, Many Lives, Many Masters. And this is actually a book where one patient, this is a book written by a psychologist. He had a patient. He is like a psychotherapist, because I put this dealing with the Arjunas and the Krishnas. We are considering Arjuna as a psychotherapist. So this Brain Elvis is a psychotherapist who was dealing with a patient, and the patient had a trauma. She, in the present life, she had no issues at all, but she undergoes a lot of mental trauma, and she was very much in pain, not understanding what is happening to her. At the time, the psychotherapists have various kind of techniques where they fix a person's problem. So they take you to a hypnotic stage. They'll try to see where exactly is your problem, relate to where exactly is your problem. And when they had tried to see her problem through that kind of hypnosis and all, they came to understand that she was actually traumatized by something that had happened in her past life. It was nothing related to her present life, but she had a kind of memory leak that led her to access her past, and that was the trauma that she was having. And they use this past life therapy to fix that patient's point. Like, they take you to that particular point where you are feeling depressed, dejected, anger, or anything, and they give you instructions that that problem is fixed. So once that hypnotic state comes out, they get that particular picture of that problem will go out of their mind, and they tend to be normal for the problem that they were facing. So this book also implies, when we see or read through this book, that talks about past life, not from someone who has written from a fiction, but a real life story. As I said, the sunlight example, the sunlight being the pure consciousness is always there everywhere, whether you see it in the day or night. Still, the sun is shining there, sun is not going anywhere. But we need to have a reflected medium to see the reflected consciousness. So what we are all operating now, if you see, I'm aware, I am conscious. If you feel that awareness, again, that awareness or the consciousness is the reflected consciousness. It's not the pure consciousness. Through the reflected consciousness, we are operating the mind, body, and our intellect. And once we go deeper and deeper, we will understand what the complete reality is. The same petrol example, I'm not repeating this. We have seen this many times. This also we have seen that how our subconscious rewiring happens, starting from samskars to vasanas. Then based upon our vasanas, we tend to develop our desires. Then comes the attachment. Then we take actions and efforts. Again, depending upon the efforts, we also experience ragas and dveshas. And this finally again leads to the cycle of births and deaths. Remember the past if you really have the past life. So one of the thing, as Swamiji said, it's the nature's blessing. Without even accessing the past, with the present things, whichever we have, look at the anxiety levels, look at the things that our mind goes for with the ways we interact with this current world itself. Had we had access to the past, and we don't know what all we could have done, and knowing that we could have a lot of guilt or any kind of things. That's why it's a nature blessing that we do not have access to the past, but as your past is seen through your sanskars, your subconscious rewiring, which again depends upon your past vasanas. That's why we are the product of the past. And what will be in the future, what will you be as a product in the future, you have a fair chance to modify the future product. But you do not have much chance to modify the product that you already are from the time you came in at that point of time. But yeah, your present actions, that's why we call it the power of present. Your power actions can determine what kind of product you will be in your future. Continuing with the next verse. Ajo pisanna vyayatma bhutanamishvaro pisan prakritim swamadhisthaya sambhavamyatma mayaya. He's saying, though unborn, of imperishable nature and lord of beings, presiding over my own prakriti, I am born out of my own maya. So this is a total Vedantic way of explaining creation and the universal existence. When you go to Vedanta, there are different schools and different thoughts, and here the way of explaining what is real and what is unreal is, they say only Brahman is real. Everything, whatever it is Maya. When you ask what is creation, it just says it's Maya. So under the same kind of understanding, here the verse goes that I am the imperishable nature, meaning the Atman or the pure consciousness, the Lord of the beings. I preside over my own Prakriti and I am born out of my own Maya. They always consider Prakriti as Maya, the nature as Maya, the Rajas, Tamas, which is the three standard rope tied to the Prakriti is Maya. So when Purusha, which is the main person, the main universal person, comes in contact with Prakriti, that is when the creation happens. And as far as this is concerned, only thing that is real is the Brahman or the pure consciousness, which is universal, like the sunlight. So Krishna identifies here to the pure consciousness. It has no birth or death or individuality. It has no names, it has no forms. It's just like the sunlight. As sunlight is present in every nook and corner of this universe, the pure consciousness pervades this entire universe. The names and forms comes when there is a reflecting medium that is kept in between. So when you take the mirage in the desert, is there really a mirage? It's just the sand. Everything is the sand, but it appears as a mirage. The same way, when you take waves in the ocean, what are the waves? Are waves separate from water? It is the same water that is coming as waves falling down and falling up. When the waves come, fall, we won't say that the ocean has died. The ocean is always there. The base of the ocean is the wave. Similarly, when we take ornaments with gold, everything, it's a bangle, it's a chain, it's a ring, whatever it is, it's a bracelet. Everything is ultimately gold. The names and forms might change, but the reality is it is gold. If a person identifies, that is what, like if you take the example of gold, and if a person identifies himself to a bangle, when the bangle is melted and a ring is made, that means the person's identity is gone. If he thinks that the person is only a bangle, it's only a bangle, then the bangle is gone, then everything is gone. But in the reality, it is the same bangle that was heated up and made into a ring. It changed its name and form, but the base, the substratum is the same, which is the gold. The same with the mud and the pot. How do you identify? Is what? The difference in the eye, identification by Arjuna and identification by Krishna differs here. We take the example of the diamond and the charcoal. When we see the charcoal is black, diamond is brilliant. Charcoal is soft and it leaves a mark on a paper when we write. Diamond is hard that it can cut through even iron. It's cheap and it's very precious. But when you see what is there in both, we all know from chemistry that charcoal, diamond, everything is made out of carbon atoms. But what makes it different? Its molecular structure makes it different, being it a charcoal or it being a diamond. But the atom that comprises of both charcoal and the diamond are the same. In the same way, for every one of us, we are all made up of the same atom or divinity, which is the universal consciousness. And we all differ in our names and forms based upon our molecular structure, which is the way we had been continuing from the past. So Vedanta says the difference between Brahman and the world is the difference between carbon and charcoal diamond. The word consists of nothing but divinity. That's what I said. It's an expression of divinity. Everywhere it's like sunlight. How sunlight pervades the entire universe. The consciousness pervades the entire universe. All the differences you perceive appear due to the name and form, position and configuration. Permutations and combinations arising out of Maya or illusion. This is the Vedantic standpoint. That everything except Brahman is Maya or illusion. So these two very important verses, and everyone might have heard this verse. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirbhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srujamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. He continues saying, O Bharata, whenever there is indeed decline of dharma and rise of adharma, I manifest myself. For the protection, why does he manifest himself? For the protection of the virtuous, for the destruction of the wicked, and for the establishment of dharma. I am born from age to age. He says yuge yuge. So what does this signify? Whenever there is a decline in dharma or rise in adharma, I manifest. He told, how does he manifest? He told that I am created out of my own maya. I come to existence with my own maya and prakriti. And why he is coming here? Because whenever there is a decline in the dharma, we know that avatars come. Whenever there is a decline in dharma or for a purpose, even in dharma or adharma, we don't know. But when we see or studied in our Puranas and Itihasas about the stories, about the Dashavatars or about whatever it is, we see that they are born for a cause. Some of them are very peaceful. Some of them are very violent. Why not all the avatars are same? Why are there different effects for different avatars? Again, it depends upon the situation at that point of time. Why was Narasimha so ferocious? Why is Rama so calm? And why is Krishna so tactical? Why is Parasurama having a different trait when they are all avatars? Why are they not the same? When we ask the question, it again depends upon what is the treatment needed at that point of time. And some of the avatars caused a lot of destruction. Some of the avatars had a very led the changes in a peaceful way. Again, the avatars are working for a common cause. They are not for the small things that we see as discomforts or the destruction. That is not the angle from which we have to look the avatars or the universal cosmic forces. And when we understand it, let's understand it from a lower level, from a level that we can relate it to our physical body. It's generally said, et pinde tat brahmande. This universe is totally the way the universe operates. The universal intelligence is there in our body. And what relates to the universal intelligence is your cellular intelligence. How intelligent the universe is, your body's cells are having the same kind of universe. And the body, physical body, relates exactly to the cosmic body. So the highest possibility of help comes from a universal intelligence, which permeates through the entire material universe and all the 14 lokas. And whenever there is a disharmony among the parts of cosmos, the power of God descends as an avatar. The incarnation of God is nothing but the cosmic intelligence operating through required media at a given time, in a given manner, for a given purpose. So this is a very beautiful understanding I got from Bhagavad Gita summary by one of the author. He clearly states that when we say incarnation of God as some person, name, form, it just talks in terms of universal forces. Universal forces happens. How does what determines the universal force? Our thoughts. So when we all vibrate with the frequency of our thoughts and emotions. So that frequency inside manifests in the form of electricity, and outside we carry it in the form of our aura or magnetic field. So each one's force put together forms the force of the universe. And always it's about yoga, balance, the good and the bad. It's not that always only good exists. Good and bad always existed. But what was always needed is the balance between the good and the bad. What happens when the negative forces increase and the positive forces decrease? That is when the intelligence of the nature or the universe comes into picture. Then it sends a battalion. We call it as avatar or an incarnation or a natural calamity or whatever it is. Universe knows how to bring back the balance. If it sees that the balance is going on for a toss, that's when it immediately comes up with its cosmic intelligence in any form to again bring back the particular balance, to maintain the cosmic balance. Or that could be again disaster. It could come in the form of an earthquake. It could come in the form of a positive thing. Either it is a negative thing happening or a positive thing happening, it is happening for a single cause of universal balance. Let's take an example. We get fever. What is the reason for fever? Why do we get fever? What is the science behind getting fever?
Some change in the body, or
when our body starts fighting to
infection, some kind of infection.
Yeah.
Extra.
So when our body has any kind of infection or inflammation, that's when normally we get a fever. Not all times we get fever, but whenever you have a fever, it is a possible sign of an infection or an inflammation. And why do the body raise its temperature? Only when the body raises its temperature, it is able to produce lot of white blood cells which are able to fight against the infections or the inflammations that you have got. So what is happening internally in your body is a fight between the good and the bad. Your body battalions of WBC, which are good, are fighting against the germs, bacteria, virus, whatever it is, to get rid of them and not have negative effects because of that infections or that pathogens. In the due course, it could be possible that all your white blood cells also die in the course of fighting. Good things are dying to fight against the bad, and your body's temperature is coming higher. That means your body is having a bit of discomfort. So why is the discomfort there? Is it to damage your body or to protect your body?
It's protect.
It is to protect your body. Apply the same to a higher level of the universal force balance. The same thing happens whenever there is a decline or when there is an imbalance between the positive and the negatives. There is a event that happens which will try to bring the cosmic forces into balance. Whether that event is good, whether that event is bad, again depends upon person's perspective, the way it affects that person. But from the universal standpoint, only one reason for that event, it is to bring back the universal cosmic balance. In the same example of this fever, when we apply it to our body, the body's example, apply it to the universe. The example here is that to fight all the pathogens, our body releases a lot of lymphocytes, antibodies, which constantly protect. Even one single negative thing comes, it starts releasing the soldiers. We don't know how many soldiers it produces, but it keeps on releasing the soldiers until it brings back the balance or health to our body. Again, Yuga here, he says, Yuge, Yuge. Again, understand Yuga as a junction or a point where there is an imbalance. A junction, a crisis, or a situation where there is a conflict of forces outwardly as well as inwardly. There is a necessity for the descent of redemptive forces in the same way as the constructive redeeming forces of the body do not act sometimes. This is just the explanation of what I have told you before. So whenever your body has a foreign invasion happening, then your body immediately releases all kinds of antibodies, all kind of the WBCs required to fight against that infection. In the same way, when the nature, universe sees any kind of upliftment in the negative cosmic forces, in the catabolic forces, then it has to come out with some event such that it also brings up the anabolic force or brings a balance between the anabolic and the catabolic forces. And that's why the manifestation of God, when we say manifestation of God here, the avatar that we are talking about is with an ultimate purpose. It is not with an individual wish. It is not for a motivated or localized purpose. God doesn't descend for you, for your sake or my sake, or for the country's sake or that country's sake. There is no such thing as mine and his for God. The total intention of creation, taken in its completeness, is the intention of God. You can replace God with universe. He wants the health and harmony of entire creation in the same way as we want health and perfection of the entire body. Simple analogy, apply it to a higher level, understand it from the universal standpoint, then you will get an understanding of what these two shlokas are. So dharma is an integrative force, adharma is a disintegrating force. And again, as I said, the thoughts of people are also supposed to determine the fate of everybody. Why is it? We always say, Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu. And why do we do mass prayers, mass chantings, and prayers for universal wellness? The power of the universal force starts with the thought of individual person. So the thought that each one of us have determined or is linked back again to the universal cosmic force. That's why thoughts are so powerful. The way we entertain our thoughts, the way we resonate with the emotions, the way we uphold the emotions, all determine or impact. You might think, what will happen if I'm just worried? I'm the only one who is worried. So if everyone thinks in that way, it's not about just you worry, but you understand that your worry, your vibrations is both internal and external. It affects your body internally as well as it radiates outside your body. The frequency also radiates outside the body, outside the universe. And everybody's radiations outside merges together to form a universal cosmic energy body. And if there is an imbalance in that, that's when some event happens, some calamity happens, or some kind of event happens to bring back that universal energy into balance. There is no such thing as private action in this universe, as the anatomical and physiological functions protect this body in a requisite manner. There is a cosmic anatomy and physiology in the light of which the balance in cosmos is maintained. So any doubts in these verses that I discussed today?
Abhita,
Yeah.
just the one slide before this, you are talking about the physiology and
Just a
this
minute.
is a man.
Okay.
The last one,
Uh-huh.
I didn't understand completely as the anatomical
See,
and
as I
physiological.
explained, right, when foreign invasion happens to our body, what happens? Your body automatically produces the WBCs or the fighting forces to fight against
okay.
your body. So that's the
Okay.
anatomical and physiological functions. Any anatomical and physiological functions that a body takes by itself is to always protect your body or to maintain your health in the interest of your health. See, when a thorn, you get a thorn or you get some nail stuck to your leg, what happens immediately? You get a pus formation there. If it is infected, you get a pus. And what is pus actually? It is the fight happening between your WBCs and the bacteria. And after killing that bacteria, it forms or it is coming out. All the bad thing is coming out in the form of pus. But pus may be irritating for you. It might be painful for you at that point of time. But the whole purpose of your body to produce that pus is to get you healthy sooner.
Get rid of.
Yeah, to make you healthy. In the same way, the cosmic or the universe acts. Nothing for its personal gain or personal loss. You might think that what will happen. That's why I said it's all a collective effort. That's why our thoughts. What can we do? If you ask, like, what can I do for this? What can I do for the benefit of the universe? Entertain, noble, and good thoughts. Entertain, again, bring up the emotional balance of resonating always with positive emotions. You can always think it in terms of universal wellness now. Whenever you think that I am feeling low, one thing is, again, internally, if you are feeling low, you know the health, how the chemistry changes in your body. And now you can add one more point for changing it, that my energy circles also affect the cosmic energy circles, which might give you a bit more motivation to be mindful about the emotions you choose and dwell upon.
The thoughts we have. Yeah. Got it. Okay. Thank you.